At our 15th anniversary vow renewal, I told 32 friends and relatives that my husband had the smallest penis I had ever seen. I said it while holding the microphone he had rented for our new vows. Colin did not swear at me or leave me at the altar. He took 4 handwritten pages from his jacket, slid them back into a cream envelope, and asked the officiant to cancel the ceremony. For weeks, I called that response humiliating. I would not admit that I had made another promise from him impossible before he said a word. The renewal had been my idea. Colin and I had married at 26 with $40 in our checking account and folding chairs in my aunt's church hall. 15 years later, we could afford the celebration we had skipped. I booked a glass conservatory above a downtown hotel, ordered white flowers, and invited the people who had watched us build a life. Our daughter, Maya, was 20 and home from college for the summer. She helped me choose the invitations. Colin wrote his own vows in the evenings and refused to let me see them. Whenever I reached for the cream envelope on his desk, he would cover it with one hand and smile. "You get them at the ceremony," he said. I liked knowing he was working that hard on words for me. I also enjoyed teasing him for caring so much. That was the contradiction I had learned to live inside. I wanted Colin's devotion, but I did not want anyone to think I needed it. 3 days before the renewal, my friend Dana asked whether the evening would be romantic or painfully earnest. Dana and I had been friends since our first office job. We competed without admitting it. Better holiday, funnier marriage, younger face, more exciting bedroom. She had divorced twice and treated sentiment like a rash. "There will be no ugly crying," I told her. "I still have a reputation." Colin heard me from the kitchen. He waited until Dana left, then asked me not to turn the ceremony into a roast. "I won't," I said. "No bedroom jokes either." I looked at him. That request was not random. Colin had told me on the first night we slept together that he was self-conscious about his size. He did not describe some dramatic trauma. He simply asked whether I was disappointed. I told him no, because I was not. Years later, during a bad argument, I used the word small just to make him stop talking. He went silent so quickly that I apologized before bed. After that, he asked me never to use his body as a weapon again, and never to discuss it with anyone else. I promised. Standing in our kitchen 3 days before the renewal, I remembered the whole conversation. "Colin, I know," I said. "I'm not a monster." The evening began exactly as I had planned. Sunlight came through the conservatory roof. A string quartet played near the windows. The hotel had set 32 chairs in short rows facing an arch covered in white roses. Behind them were dinner tables, a bar, and a small dance floor. Colin wore a navy suit. Maya pinned a white flower to his lapel and took a picture of the two of us. In that photograph, his hand rests at my waist and I am looking at the camera instead of him. The ceremony was scheduled after cocktails. I had asked our original maid of honor and best man to make short toasts first. Both were warm. Colin's brother described the night Colin drove 6 hours through a snowstorm when our daughter had surgery near her college. My sister talked about how Colin cared for our father during his final year without ever making the help sound like a sacrifice. People were already wiping their eyes. Then Dana took the microphone. She said Colin was proof that the quiet ones could survive women like me. People laughed. She said our marriage had lasted because I supplied the excitement and Colin supplied whatever the opposite of excitement is. More laughter. I watched Colin smile politely. I should have defended him. Instead, I felt the room creating a version of me I wanted to keep. Difficult, funny, too alive for an ordinary man, yet somehow generous enough to stay. Dana handed me the microphone and said, "Your turn, tell us his secret." I could have talked about his patience. I could have told the room that my father trusted Colin to help him bathe when he no longer trusted his own legs. I could have said that every stable part of my life had Colin's fingerprints on it. Instead, I looked at his cream vow envelope in the inside pocket of his jacket. Then I said, 15 years of marriage taught me that size really doesn't matter. It has to, because Colin has the smallest penis I have ever seen. One man barked out a laugh before stopping. Dana made a shocked sound that turned into a giggle. My cousin covered her mouth. At the back of the room, someone whispered my name. I saw Maya stare at the floor. That should have ended it. I had already broken the promise. But the first laugh was fading, and I could not bear the silence coming after it. "Don't look so horrified," I added. "He is very organized with what little he has." This time, nobody laughed. Colin stood beside the officiant with his hands loose at his sides. His face did not redden. He did not look at Dana or the guests. He looked at Maya first. Then he looked at me. He walked to the small table beneath the flower arch. From his jacket, he removed 4 folded pages and the cream envelope. He straightened the pages against the table as if neat edges still mattered. Then he slid them inside. "Colin," I said into the microphone, trying to sound amused. "Come on." He pressed the flap closed with his thumb and handed the envelope to his brother. Then he turned to the officiant. "Please cancel the ceremony," he said. "Dinner can continue. Everyone already traveled." The officiant asked quietly whether he wanted a few minutes. "No," Colin said. "I came here to promise her privacy, respect, and kindness again. I can't say those words tonight." He did not take the microphone from me. He did not announce a separation. He moved his place card from our table to the empty seat beside Maya. The hotel coordinator began removing the 2 chairs beneath the arch. That small practical movement was what made me panic. Until then, I believed the room was waiting for me to rescue the mood. Watching a stranger carry away the chair where my husband was supposed to renew his vows made the cancellation real. I followed Colin into the corridor and told him he could not punish everyone over one joke. "I'm not punishing them," he said. "They can eat." "You just humiliated me in front of my whole family." He looked at the microphone still in my hand. "I canceled my words," he said. "You published my body." Then he went back inside and sat beside our daughter. Dinner continued because Colin had paid for dinner and because shock does not stop waiters from carrying plates. The string quartet packed up early. Nobody danced. I sat at the table alone while guests came near me, changed their minds, and found somewhere else to stand. Dana finally slipped into the chair beside me. "I thought you were making it up," she whispered. That sentence stripped away the last place I could hide. Dana had laughed because she assumed I had invented an absurd insult. My silence told her it was private and true. "You need to tell people it wasn't," I said. She stared at me. "Wasn't what?" "True." "But you just tell them I was joking." Dana stood up. "I'm not cleaning that up for you." I called her disloyal. Even now, I am ashamed that disloyal was the word I found while Colin sat across the room protecting our daughter from looking at me. At home, he did not pack a suitcase. He carried his pillow to the small room where I kept my exercise bike and cleared clothes from a chair. When I followed him, he asked me to stay at the door. I told him canceling the ceremony had made the joke look serious. It was serious before I canceled anything. I said I had praised him by saying size did not matter. I said everyone knew our marriage had lasted 15 years, so obviously I was satisfied. I said Dana had cornered me. I said the champagne had been stronger than I expected. Colin listened until I ran out of explanations. "Did you forget I asked you 3 days ago?" he said. I had not forgotten. He closed the door. He did not slam it. The next morning, Maya was gone before I woke. She left a message saying she was staying with my sister until her return flight. When I called, she declined twice. On the 3rd call, she answered and told me she did not want an apology yet. "Dad spent the drive apologizing to me for the canceled ceremony," she said. "You made him comfort me for what you did to him." I said I never intended for her to hear something like that. "There were 30 people in the room, Mom. Who exactly did you intend to hear it?" I had no answer. For the first week, Colin and I lived inside new rules. He used the hall bathroom and locked the door. He dressed in the exercise room. If I entered the kitchen while he was in his pajamas, he went upstairs and put on a robe. The changes felt theatrical to me, so I accused him of trying to make me feel dangerous. "I don't feel private around you," he said. "That's not theater." On the 4th night, I climbed into his temporary bed, wearing the nightgown he liked. I thought sex could prove that my joke had not described our marriage. Colin got up immediately and stood in the hallway. "Please don't use my body to make yourself feel forgiven," he said. I called him cruel. Then I heard myself. I was standing in the room I had entered without invitation, angry that the man I exposed would not let me touch him on demand. I went back to our bedroom alone. The truth widened slowly because I kept trying to make it small. The vow renewal was not the first time I had used Colin's insecurity. It was only the first time I had supplied an audience. When he gained confidence at work and disagreed with me more often, I reminded him that other women might not be as understanding as I was. During arguments about money, I said he should be grateful I cared about qualities that could not be measured. Once, when he wanted to leave a party early, I leaned close and told him not to act like a man with options. I never needed to name the body part, we both knew what I meant. I had also given Dana pieces, not the direct fact, I told myself, just clues. I joked that our marriage-proved equipment was less important than effort. I told her hotel rooms wasted money on king-size beds. Each time she laughed, I felt powerful for exposing Colin without technically saying his name. The renewal joke had not come from nowhere. I had rehearsed its shape for years. 2 nights after I admitted that to myself, Colin knocked on our bedroom door. It was the first time he had entered since the renewal. He stayed near the doorway while I sat on the edge of the bed. "I need to ask you something once," he said. "Was what you told them true?" I knew he was not asking about his own body. He knew what his body looked like. He was asking whether I had actually judged our intimate life the way I had taught the room to judge it. I almost gave him the kind answer. I almost said the joke had no relationship to truth, that he was perfect, that I had only chosen a random insult. That answer would have protected me from explaining why I selected the one fact he had asked me to guard. "The detail was true," I said. "The disappointment wasn't." Colin leaned against the doorframe. I told him our sex life had never failed because of his size. When we were close, I wanted him. When we were not, I used the easiest explanation because it made the distance his defect instead of our problem. "Then why say it there?" he asked. I said I had been nervous about reading my vows. I said Dana made me feel old and conventional. I said everyone was crying and I wanted to change the energy. He waited. Each answer was true, and still not the truth he had asked for. "I wanted them to think you were lucky I chose you," I finally said. The room became so quiet that I could hear the ceiling fan clicking. I told him I liked being seen as the exciting half of our marriage. If people saw his patience as strength, then I was simply the woman who needed it. If I made his body inadequate, his devotion looked like gratitude and my staying looked generous. Colin closed his eyes. "I stood there with 4 pages about how lucky I was," he said. That was the only thing he ever told me about the vows. I asked whether he had written anything about the difficult years. He shook his head. "You don't get a preview now." It was not said to wound me. He was taking back the private interior of his own mind, one sentence at a time. Before he left the doorway, he said my honest answer was worse than sexual disappointment. Disappointment might have been painful, but it could have been disgust. I had been satisfied and still turned his body into evidence that I outranked him. I slept very little that night. For years, I had told myself the cruel remarks came from unmet needs. The simpler truth was that I had a husband who loved me without making me compete for safety, and I converted that safety into status. 9 days after the ceremony, my brother hosted lunch for our mother's birthday. Colin did not attend. He sent flowers and called her that morning. As dessert was served, my brother lifted a narrow cake knife and said, "Careful, apparently sized jokes are dangerous in this family." 2 people laughed. I felt the old impulse to laugh with them, so the discomfort would belong to someone else. Instead, I put down my fork. What I said about Colin was a real private detail, I told the table. He never gave me permission to share it. It was not playful, and canceling the vows was not an overreaction. Do not repeat it or turn it into another joke. My brother's face changed. Our mother began to cry. I wanted to soften everything for her, but softness had always been where I hid the action. I left before coffee. That evening, I sent the same correction to every adult guest from the renewal. I did not say Colin forgave me. I did not say we were working through it. I did not blame alcohol or ask anyone to reassure me. I told them the disclosure was true, deliberate, and made without his consent. I asked them not to contact him about it. I did not copy Colin on the message. For once, an apology was not a performance he had to grade. The replies were uncomfortable. Some guests thanked me, some said nothing. One uncle told me I was making the situation worse by confirming the joke. He was right about the risk and wrong about the remedy. I could not restore Colin's privacy by recruiting everyone into a lie that protected me. Dana called after reading it. "You made us all sound complicit," she said. "You weren't complicit when I said it, I was. I was trying to keep the room fun." I recognized the defense because I had lived inside it. "So was I said. "Look what fun cost." Our friendship did not survive that conversation. Losing Dana hurt, but it was not evidence that I had paid enough. She had helped me make contempt entertaining. I had chosen the material. Colin stayed in the exercise room for 10 weeks. He was civil. We discussed bills, Maya's travel plans, groceries, and a leak under the kitchen sink. We did not discuss his body unless he raised the subject. He never did. I stopped asking when he would come back to our bedroom. Deadlines would have turned basic decency into a deposit on reconciliation. In September, Maya asked us to visit her campus on different weekends. Colin could come for the family football game. I could come 2 weeks later for her department's open house. My first response was that separate visits would make our problems look bigger than they were. Maya went quiet on the phone. There it was again. My concern was not what arrangement made her comfortable. It was what strangers in stadium seats might conclude about me. "The open house sounds good," I said. "I will come then." She thanked me cautiously. When my weekend arrived, I drove the 3 hours alone. Maya showed me the editing suite where she worked, introduced me to 2 professors, and let me buy her an expensive dinner. We did not talk about Colin until I was preparing to leave. "Dad didn't tell me what was in his vows," she said. "He didn't tell me either." Maya studied my face, perhaps checking whether I was asking her to investigate for me. I told her not to ask him. That was a very small act of restraint, and it deserved no praise. It also showed me how often I had used the people around Colin as extra doors into rooms he had closed. His brother, our daughter, mutual friends, I had treated every relationship as a route back to the answer I wanted. On the drive home, I passed the hotel where we held the renewal. The conservatory roof was lit above the traffic. For 1 second, I imagined pulling over, going upstairs, and asking whether the staff remembered us. Then I kept driving. Not every witness needed my explanation. Not every painful place had to become a stage for my improvement. In late October, he asked me to sit with him at the kitchen table. He said he had rented a furnished apartment for 6 months. He did not know whether he wanted a divorce. He knew he could not learn whether he still loved our life while protecting himself from me inside it. I cried, but I did not tell him the rent was wasteful. I did not remind him that I had publicly corrected the story. I asked what he wanted to take from the house. "My clothes, my records, and the blue chair," he said. The blue chair was an ugly reading chair I had tried to replace for years. Colin loved it because Maya used to fall asleep against his chest there when she was little. We carried it to his car together. Before he left, I asked one question I had promised myself not to ask. "Do you think you will ever feel safe being intimate with me again?" Colin rested both hands on the back of the chair. "I don't know if I can be naked with you without wondering who else is in the room," he said. There was nothing dramatic in his voice. That made the answer final enough for that day. 4 months have passed. Colin still wears his wedding ring, but I have stopped using that as evidence. He visits Maya separately. We have dinner once every 2 weeks in public places, where neither of us has to decide what a closed bedroom door means. He has not filed for divorce. He has not promised to come home. Last week, the hotel mailed me a box of things left after the renewal. Inside were 2 unused champagne glasses, the printed ceremony programs, and my handwritten vows. I had left them beneath my chair when dinner ended. Colin's vows were not there. His brother told me Colin kept the cream envelope. I used to think that meant hope. Now I understand the envelope belongs to him, just as the private truth inside our marriage belonged to him. He may open it, destroy it, or keep it sealed. I do not get to turn those pages into another thing he owes me. My own vows are in the kitchen drawer beneath the takeout menus. One line says, "I will always make our home the safest place for his unguarded self." I wrote that promise before I stood under white roses and taught my husband that even my love came with an audience.